Alright, hi everyone, and welcome back to Philosophy 261. Today we're going to start our Unit 0, an Introduction to Philosophical Ethics. Now this unit's going to be a little bit different than most of the other ones that we're going to do. First of all, it's going to be shorter, but also it's going to be at a much higher level of abstraction, and it's going to be a lot more theoretical than other stuff that we're going to do. We're going to take a look at some different theories of philosophical ethics. Now, our goal here is not like that you become experts in this stuff, but that you know just enough about it that you can see how it applies to different kinds of environmental issues. So we're going to take a look at the two major theories of philosophical ethics, utilitarianism and deontology. Today we're going to talk about utilitarianism. Now, utilitarianism is a pretty simple theory. When you have to decide between different courses of action, you choose the one that has the best outcome. And the best outcome is the one that brings about the most happiness for the most people. In other words, it causes the greatest happiness in the world. And the one that's not good is the one that causes the most suffering. So more happiness, less suffering, that should be your guide to what you should do. And a lot of the time this also includes not just humans, but non-human animals, because animals can also suffer, they can also feel pain, and they can also be happy in their own way. So a lot of people say, we should consider their interests as well when we make decisions. Now, most of the time, environmental ethics, it is discussed in utilitarian terms, right? And that could just seem obvious. When we're trying to make a decision on what to do about these various environmental problems that we face, we want to do what's going to have the best outcome in the long term, what's going to have the most benefit for the most people and cause the least suffering, right? And a lot of the time the authors that we're going to read, they're going to appeal to this principle. They're going to appeal to utilitarianism either explicitly or implicitly. And you're going to see, especially in Section 2, the section on, or Unit 2, the unit on population ethics, that a lot of time they can do that to push for solutions that might seem pretty shocking. Okay, so utilitarianism, it's often discussed, or it's often introduced by means of the trolley problem. Now, a lot of you may have already heard of the trolley problem, especially if you watched that show The Good Place that was on TV a couple years ago. But the trolley problem is what we call a thought experiment, and a thought experiment is just like a story or a situation where we abstract away from everything else so we can isolate the relevant features of what it is that we're talking about. So it's kind of like a philosophical laboratory, if you will. So in the trolley problem, what's going on is there's this runaway trolley car that's coming down the tracks, and it's about to run over 5 people who are tied to the tracks. But you have the switch that controls the tracks, and if you throw that switch, you're going to divert the car down, the trolley car down a different side track that's got one person tied to the tracks, right? So there's no time to do anything else. You can't try to untie the people. You can't get help. You have to make a choice. Do you throw the switch or not? If you don't throw it, 5 are going to die. If you do throw it, 1 is going to die. So utilitarianism says, look, this is simple. It's better 5 people live than 1 live, right? So it's basically a simple mathematical equation. You throw the switch, okay? And utilitarianism can seem pretty obvious. It can seem like almost common sense when it's put in those terms. But, you should be a little bit cautious about this. No, nothing's ever as simple as it seems. And there's a lot of ways that that utilitarianism can kind of seem to come apart from what the right decision is. First of all, when you start to consider, a lot of times, especially when you're talking about environmental problems, you have to consider human rights and basic fundamental rights. And you can say, look, there's certain rights that are just so important that we don't violate them. It doesn't matter what the best outcome is going to be. But besides that, you just have to realize that real life is not a trolley problem. Okay, first of all, it's going to be very rare that you're narrowly restricted between 2 choices like that. You should be very skeptical, and you should be very cautious when somebody presents a problem to you in that way, where they narrow it down to a certain range of choices and they say, look, you have to do this or you have to do that. And that's something you should always look out for in these discussions that we're going to read, in the material that we're going to read for this course, because a lot of the time they do try to kind of pull that trick on you and say, look, it's this or that. You don't have any other choice. Another thing is that in real life, you're very seldom going to clearly know what the future outcomes of your actions are going to be. It's not like you're sitting there, when you're thinking about complex environmental problems, it's not like you're sitting there watching a trolley that's about to hit a fork in a road. Things are much more complex than that. And finally, you're not always going to be able to clearly compare two outcomes in this way. For example, just thinking about in terms of the trolley problem, what if we had one person on one side of the track, and on the other side of the track, instead of 5 people, we had 100 houses with everybody's stuff in them, but the owners aren't home? You know, do we let one person get run over to save 100 homes with everybody's property? What about 1,000 homes or 1,000,000 homes? You know, there's some number that's going to make this decision very difficult to make for most people. And that's more representative of what real world problems are like. So my point is that you should be very skeptical when authors appeal to purely utilitarian considerations to try to push the course of action that they favor. Now, I'm not trying to say that utilitarianism is always wrong. It is a framework in which environmental ethics are most often discussed, but I'm saying that you should at least question that, and it's not always going to clearly be the right choice for how we should make decisions. All right, and that's it. I'll see you on Friday.